Good morning and welcome to our 7th COG Extra. I'm Tabitha Goldstall, the co-founder of COGX, and it's a delight to welcome you from wherever you are in the world today. Today is about the startup ecosystems with purpose. We're all admittedly huge fans of the entrepreneurial world, but in 2020 has shown us anything, it's that we should be trying to build products with a stronger moral compass. As part of this, we've invited some of the most exciting stakeholders, founders, entrepreneurs, and investors in the sector to share with us their thoughts and how we can encourage this. Today, we'll be looking at 4 very important questions. How to scale your startup through strong headwinds? What are the real unvarnished discussions taking place in the funding world? What does a re-innovation of the boardroom actually look like? And finally, and most importantly, how do we invest in diversity to encourage a more robust ecosystem? Our 7th COG Extra session today is titled Build, Build, Build. And we hope that you come away with some brilliant insights about what it really takes to craft a great product. In addition to these main sessions being streamed, we have 2 round tables which you can sign up to, hosted by our Global Leadership Network. At 1 o'clock, we have Going Global, a guide to your international strategy, and at 2:30, a digital future for female health tech. In addition to these side events, don't forget to check out the expo and drop a line to some of the brilliant organizations featured in it. Lastly, we encourage you to talk amongst yourself, reach out to someone new and make a connection using the networking function. We're building as many features as possible to make it easier for you to do business, so let us know what you think. But much more importantly, let's get the first session of the day started. Kicking us off, we are delighted to welcome Kwame Nyanning, the Chief Experience Officer of Arrival, an enormously exciting UK-grown company working to revitalize the public transport system. He will be in conversation with my dear friend and columnist Joy Lodico. And you can ask your questions on the COGX platform during the session, as there won't be a separate Q&A today. Kwame, Joy, take it away.
Hey, Kwame, good morning. It's always something slightly bizarre having a fireside chat at 9 in the morning when you really haven't got a fire going yet. Listen, Arrival is one of the most interesting companies in the UK at the moment. It is taking the electric vehicle revolution into places that hasn't really been properly explored by startups. Can you explain to me in a nutshell what Arrival is doing at the moment?
Yeah, Arrival's a technology company that's focusing on developing electric vehicles that are at cost parity with internal combustion engine vehicles, specifically commercial vehicles, and that provide a radically better experience due to the fact that they are sort of rethought from the ground up, manufactured in new ways with sustainable materials, connected to the cloud, and provide a unparalleled, or hopefully unparalleled, user experience.
Okay, so at some level, we're basically talking about a goods van, a cargo truck of some description. But actually, when you look at the vehicles that Arrival is designing and producing, they look like something out of the future. We were talking a little bit earlier about how you create a kind of new product, and the fact that the experience, that what is actually produced has to have an emotional element to it and a cultural element to it. Now, when I look at you're producing both electric vans, but also moving into buses as well, you are in a sense designing a kind of idea for what the modern city should look like.
Yeah, there's a phrase that we use within Arrival about thinking from the future as opposed to about the future. Oftentimes you'll find people that are thinking, or organizations that are thinking about, these very rich far future scenarios, are projecting a lot of their own assumptions on what that future might be. At Arrival, we're sort of wanting to think from the future, placing ourselves in a future scenario that might not be as frictionless or as rosy as some imaginings, and then create solutions to address any of those constraints or any of those pain points or frictions.
Okay.
And yeah.
No, go ahead.
And so go ahead.
This is the impossibility of some of these conversations. Yeah. We can't read each other's body keys. Listen, this vision of this place from the future, people are investing in where you are arriving from. You've become a $3 billion unicorn company already. You've had Hyundai investing in you. You've had some more investment today. So somebody believes in what you're doing. What is it about the message you're conveying? What is this future that people are buying into?
Yeah, we had BlackRock invest in us most recently. We announced it just today for $114 million, which is nice. It's a nice sort of vote from the establishment that we're on the right track. And what I guess ultimately, while we're making electric vehicles and we're trying to make the best electric vehicles in the world and ensure that they're accessible and relevant globally, our main innovation is the way that we make those vehicles from the standpoint of a micro factory. So a micro factory is a small footprint facility that is highly automated, and due to the fact that it has a smaller footprint, can be located closer to the point of use as opposed to a much larger factory, which a lot of other electric vehicle companies are doing. They're going out and they're building these massive, huge factories, and those factories are typically formatted to only make one vehicle or one class of vehicle, whereas a micro factory is a much smaller footprint and sort of conforms to traditional warehouse sizing. So we were able to go into a region that already has warehouse inventory, acquire one of those warehouses, outfit it as a micro factory, and begin to make multiple types of vehicles. So not just one type of vehicle, but multiple types of vehicles. And that's part of like our core innovation, as well as the fact that we're vertically integrated. So that means we make all of our own materials, which are sustainable. We make all of our own components. We provide all of our own sales and after sales services. We're a very sort of focused and concentrated enterprise, so that we're limiting the dependencies that traditional automotive companies often face with their supply network and their supply chain.
Okay, so you're in charge of user experience. Now, user experience is sort of a 360-degree subject, because I may be a user of one of your buses, for example, but you also have the employees who have to use them. What are the things you've learned in this journey about what's required, and what is Arrival doing differently?
I think the first thing that we have to understand from a company that's really focused on being experience driven is that you have to go out and talk to your customers and your customers, and they have to be at the core of whatever it is that you're developing and building. So we've spent a lot of time with our partner UPS and some of our other large partners to understand what is it that they're going to need from these vehicles beyond just the performance and the charge range and things like that. But what's the context in which their drivers are operating within? What's the context within the fleet operators and the fleet managers are operating within? What are the tools that they're using? How do we support the different stakeholders and roles and across all the various touch points that our vehicles are going to be interacting with over the course of their life cycle, but also just within the course of a day of operation? And really also focusing on the metropolitan area and the city regarding charging infrastructure and pedestrians. And it's our focus is wide and broad, because our vehicles are living in the world, and you have to, if you're going to do something that's sort of for the world, you have to take the world into account.
Okay, and what was it when you were going through this user experience that you found was the most significant hindrance to actually making that progress?
I think it's just sort of outmoded assumptions about what's possible and how things should be. A lot of times we have to work with our customers to help them understand that the way that they've been doing things for the past 50, 60, 70, 100 years is up for change, right? Is that it doesn't necessarily have to be the sort of the established set of norms and policy and processes that they've assumed, because we're introducing technological innovation into the context now. And so having vehicles that are now connected to the cloud, that can be monitored remotely, that can be sort of serviced in a predictive way, where we know when something is going to break before that thing breaks, and so we can proactively conduct interventions into servicing, which reduces downtime, and which then, that reduced downtime has knock-on effects to how you build out a depot and how you schedule and provision those vehicles. So it's really kind of introducing the language, the behaviors, and the sort of new assumptions that are required to operate in a new way. I think that's definitely one of the challenges.
So your microfactories, are they also, in a sense, the kind of the modern equivalent of a mechanic's workshop, so that the vehicle can go back to the factory again when it needs a bit of servicing?
No. So our service model is that we facilitate the service technicians coming to you. So while the microfactory is ideally in the region that it's serving, and very close to the region that it's serving, there's a network of service technicians that are working to proactively support and go to the various depots or the various fleets and address any issues that may come up.
Okay, what would I, as a consumer, notice as the biggest change were I to get onto an arrival bus, for example?
Oh wow! Well, I mean, there's so many. We took a lot of time and a lot of care to think about not just how could this be the best bus for a bus fleet operator, but how can it be the best bus for a passenger and for a driver as well. So everything from when the bus is approaching you, the very large screens on the exterior of the bus that alert you to where the bus is going, and can show you where to get on, which doors to board, and which doors to exit from, to the internal screens that can give you a running sort of update on where you are from a location standpoint. There's a soundscape within the bus that we've designed. We have a sound designer on my team that's intended to be very calming and soothing, to make the vehicle a welcoming and peaceful place. There's modular seating that, based on sort of the needs and requirements of any kind of social distancing that might be required, we can easily take seats out and put seats in. The bus should be cleaner because we've designed it to be much easier to clean than a traditional bus, where all the interfaces of the body are at 90-degree angles. Ours are curved, so it's much easier to get a broom under there. All of our seats are cantilevered. We have a capacitive touch bell push that is also meaning that because it's capacitive, we can crank up the capacitive signal on that, so you don't have to touch it. You can just it's like a proximity activation. And then the driver is sitting in probably one of the nicest seats that's been developed for a bus driver, with minimal interfaces and buttons and switches and things like that they have to worry about and deal with, because all their controls are on a tablet-sized screen. So yeah, I mean, the bus it's a completely different, game-changing bus than anything that's currently out there on the road.
Okay, here we are in 2020, and you're the company from the future. There are two questions here. First of all, how do you or your company envisage where transport is going to be in 5 to 10 years' time, and what your part in transforming it is? And secondly, how do you scale up your company into any spaces or create new spaces for it to grow? So first is, what is the vision of transport? Second, how do you scale it?
Yeah, Arrival's overall vision is to have radical impact on the way that goods and people move from A to B. And in order for that to happen, there's going to have to be a recalibration and redefinition of what public transport and private transport are. So in the next 5 to 10 years, we see a more of a blending of an understanding of the role that public and private transport play in the formatting of cities, which means that the municipal and governing bodies are going to be paying a lot more attention to infrastructure and the affordances that they build into their cities to accommodate electric vehicles. We'll see tighter partnerships between public transport agencies and commercial entities to ensure that data is shared and distributed and used in a way that is making transport and sort of traffic management through the city more effective and more transparent. We'll see more engaging tools for commuters and for passengers on public transport to be more aware of the options that they have available to them as far as like multimodal transport. So I think, on the face of it, we'll see hopefully a big boom in infrastructure and the development of electrification and charging infrastructure from a city standpoint. And then from a commercial standpoint, we'll see tighter partnerships with municipal agencies and the development of kind of touch points with consumers to help them get from point A to point B. As far as how we scale Arrival, Arrival is a company that's we plan in. I have somebody on my team who's building 100-year plan. So our planning is much further out than just like 5, 10, 20 years, 30 years. So there's lots of opportunities to rethink transportation, rethink the way that things are made, and rethink the ways in which people and communities are able to inform the way that the vehicles that are on their roads in their cities behave. And that's really what we're about is building vehicles that are well-behaved citizens, that are not just these kind of dumb smoke belching vehicles that we have now, but are truly integrated into a transportation ecosystem. And so part of that is buses and vans and things like that, but it's also coming up with new solutions around shared mobility and ride sharing and ride hailing and things like that as well. So there's a wide open space for us, we think.
Okay, and what has been kind of the biggest bottleneck, in a sense, to Arrival's success, or what is a bottleneck that you've actually managed to overcome in the company's 5-year history?
I mean, I don't know if it's a bottleneck, but we spent about 5 years in stealth mode, and and in those 5 years, Arrival was mainly an R&D company. So we were just focused on exploring the vast terrain of what was possible, and we spent a lot of time doing that. And there were some really weird experiments and some things that kind of were able to eke through, like the van and the bus and a few of our other vehicle platforms that we have. But that sort of process of creation and innovation and exploration wasn't necessarily a bottleneck, but it was a road that we had to walk, and it took 5 years. And now that we've walked that road, I think we're much better equipped to bring innovative solutions to market. But it definitely took a while to get there.
Okay, and we've got some questions coming in from the audience, and anybody else, do feel free to type them in now and I'll pick them up. Nigel has asked, how has COVID shifted the narrative on moving around the city?
Yeah, I think people are just a lot more aware of their context now, and how you think about the other people around you and your level of comfort with being around other people. I think that's like very kind of obvious, but so we've seen in some regions, a huge uptick in people purchasing used cars because they no longer want to be around other people. And while in the short term that seems like a solution, long term we don't need more private vehicles on the roads because it contributes to traffic, especially older, sort of almost like deprecated vehicles on the road. So I think that one of the things that we're going to need to be focusing on is how do we create systems of transportation that can give people confidence that they'll be safe and healthy, while also reducing the amount of traffic and the amount of congestion that's on the roads for getting people from one place to another.
Okay. I'm feeling slightly guilty because I bought a second-hand car about 6 months ago. It really was a complete, gas guzzler, but I am out in the countryside. Lydia asks, what can people do on an individual basis to cut their carbon footprint in regards to transport? Now, I'm sure there's an easy answer to that, including me not buying that car, but there's a more complex one as well.
Yeah, and it's there's the simple things like walking and riding your bike, or if your family is sort of taking a trip to think about other ways of getting there besides driving. But then there's also, and this is sort of controversial, right? Is that we've seen a huge uptick in e-commerce and online ordering. And I'm totally guilty of it. I'll just sort of order things throughout the week, and there's just a constant stream of boxes showing up at my door. But we don't necessarily always think about, well, how are these vehicles getting from point A to point B? And that's something that I think we could all be a bit more conscious of. One, by ordering from companies that are employing more sustainable solutions for their logistics and for their transportation, like UPS, which has a number of electric vehicles that they've deployed all over the world. But then also maybe thinking about how you kind of group and batch your online consumption could also be something that helps.
Okay, I think I read somewhere, I was looking into cargo transportation in probably London, and in fact, it seemed to be occasionally more eco-friendly to be ordering all your goods in from supermarkets, from Amazon and so forth, than you taking your kind of knackered old car out on the street. So in fact, it may be an integral thing. And this is one of the things I find fascinating about Arrival. It's taken on, although we spent a lot of time talking about electric vehicles to the consumer, it's taken on one of the biggest set of road users, which is the commercial vehicle, which is the cargo vehicle, which are, generally speaking, kind of neglected in the public conversation, although obviously there's a lot going on between, manufacturers like yourself and businesses like UPS that have embraced it. Sean has asked, how can we encourage more people to think like designers?
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest role of a designer within the design process is empathy, and I think that's probably a good step in general from a societal standpoint, given where we are right now and everything that's going on. Is to have empathy, is to take your biases and your perspective out of the equation when thinking about trying to solve a problem, and focusing on the pain points and the tension points that the person who you're designing for, or the person who you're trying to solve the problem for, how they're experiencing that specific situation. So you start from the user, or you start from the person who you're developing a solution for, and do your best to put yourself in their shoes, and to walk in their shoes, and to talk to them and interview them, and understand how their behaviors and how their mental models shape the ways in which they approach trying to achieve whatever their goal is that they're trying to achieve. And if you're doing this for yourself, I would also say that, the idea of, you come up with one idea that's your first idea, maybe you want to throw that away or put it to the side and keep on exploring and investigating and challenging yourself to just be more creative in the ways in which you solve problems.
Okay, I'm just going to put together two things. It's a question here and the results of our first poll, which is the poll asked the question, are our cities ready for an electric car revolution? 100% of the responses said, no, we weren't. The question I want to attach to that is one from Louis, who asks, how vital is competition and scaling to thinking bigger, i.e., is that going to solve the problem?
Okay. I think that we're as ready as we're ever going to be to kickstart this electric revolution.
So we're here.
So well, I mean, this is like we are where we are, right? And this is, and there is no time other than like right now to do it. So let's do it. And I guess to Louis' question, the best way to do that is going to be through understanding what are the various options that we have before us, right? There's, like there's electric, there's hydrogen, there's lots of options out there, and we need to be aggressive in how we evaluate and prototype and put different solutions out into the world and see which one is going to be the most sustainable, effective, and beneficial for our specific cities and our societies and communities. So I think competition is great. There's nothing wrong with competition. And then scale is also, I think, going to be another one of the determining factors. Is we can come up with a beautiful solution, but is it applicable globally? Is a solution for London also going to be a solution that we can see scale in Lagos or in Singapore? And these are the types of things that my team is thinking about constantly. Is like everybody's journey from point A to B is not the same. And so how do we create solutions that are adaptable and flexible and appropriate for their context?
Okay. Tagging on to that is, how do we speed? So there is a process for this to happen. How do we speed it up? How do we kind of really kickstart this electric revolution?
I think a lot of it has to do with people first acknowledging that we need to do it, and that needs to happen at every level of society, all the way from us as individual citizens up through our government. And we need to prioritize the various initiatives that are going to be required to do it. So everything from getting a bit more handle on our grids and understanding the ways in which we're manufacturing and storing energy and distributing energy, through to developing infrastructure, charging infrastructure, and other types of smart infrastructure that allow us to use data and deploy our resources in smarter and more effective ways. So I think that it's going to take a community of business and public sector and citizens to make this happen. It's our responsibility. It's what we as people on this earth are going to be challenged to do, and we're either going to do it or we're not. And I'm hopeful that we're going to do it. I'm hopeful that Arrival is getting the types of partners and backers that believe in this movement, and that we're going to be well positioned to fulfill its intention and its goals.
Brilliant. Build. Kwame, thank you. That's been fascinating, and I look forward to seeing an Arrival bus on the street soon and some nice quiet cargo trucks going past my place.
All right.
Thank you very much for our fireside chat.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. That was quite amazing. Such fascinating. I'm with you, Kwame. We are ready as we're ever going to be. The scale of your ambition is, as you said, totally mind-blowing. I'm actually looking forward to seeing these vehicles as well-behaved citizens as soon as possible. I know that I am not the best well-behaved driving citizen, so I'm thrilled. And thank you to the audience for tuning in, and we'll see everybody else back here at 10 o'clock for our next session. Thanks, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks, Kwame.
Want access to more CogX videos? Subscribe now for free at cogx.co.